First story. My entitled in-laws, who hate me, falsely claim I cheated on my fiancée to get her with her ex, now want to live in my house after I inherited my grandpa's will. So I refuse to let them in. Now my fiancé is threatening to call off the wedding, so I call it off myself. TLDR. After my grandfather's death 6 months ago, I inherited 90% of his wealth with a no-contest will, granting me not only enough money to never work again, but also a massive estate he claimed was his hunting cabin. It's big enough to fit my fiancée, my parents, and her parents comfortably. However, I said I didn't want them moving in with us, and now it's turned into a total blowout. To those who will ask, no common law doesn't apply to us. And after a heated debate, she agreed to sign a prenup with witnesses around if I agreed to buy her a nice ring and a vacation once a year. She clearly isn't with me for the money. Obviously, this comes off as a rich people problem, but up until 5 months ago, I was still living in a one-bedroom apartment, working at a rather large supermarket retail store, making $12 per hour, and going to be paying off college debt until I was in my 60s. My fiancée is still working her nursing job, and we've been fully living together for 4 years. Some background on our relationship. We met 6 years ago. There were literally zero issues with us dating. When it came to some sort of conflict, we sat down, explained both sides like adults, and generally fixed the problem. We've rarely gotten into arguments and have the same end goals in life: to be children, grow old together, die, be buried next to each other, and have fun whenever we can. I've always had an incredibly distant relationship with her parents. When she introduced me to them, they both stated they didn't like me to my face and thought I wasn't good enough. Her father even said, "Not in my lifetime." When I asked for his permission to marry his daughter, I stated that the only reason I was doing it was for an olive branch. My parents, on the other hand, love my fiancée. They scooped her up like she was one of us from the start. They have never said anything bad about her in public, nor have they in private. She, at least in my parents' eyes, is the metaphorical second coming of Christ. During my grandfather's decline in health, I was the first one there. He just got old, and with being old come complications. I stopped working my higher-paying job to work retail to have more time to take care of him because his other children were busy. This was a very stressful time in our relationship. I had just recently left my job and was not around often, and I myself was super stressed. Recently, I've begun the slow movement of everything over there. While we still have to live in our apartment until the lease agreement is up, there's nothing against the rules of me moving stuff. I brought it up with my girlfriend about how taking care of my grandfather has really made me realize how important my family is, and that I wanted to know if it was okay for my parents to move into the new house with us. My dad could retire, and my mom could spend the rest of her life relaxing and not stressing over bills or debt. Because I can pay that off over time. I'm not insane enough to pay it all in one go. She expressed how that was an amazing idea and how she'd like her parents to move in as well. I laughed at the idea and asked her if she was serious. And why would I want to live in a house with people I don't like or want to interact with? She explained that this could be a good chance for us to heal old wounds and make amends. I explained that not only do I not want to heal old wounds, but if it were up to me, they wouldn't be coming to the wedding. Obviously, this was the wrong thing to say, and now she's giving the ultimatum of let them move in, or the wedding is off. While I can understand her side, I seriously do not want to interact with them in any capacity. They've tried numerous times to get her back with exes, lie about me, and even spread a rumor about me being unfaithful, until I pulled up real evidence of me being nowhere near where they said I was, thanks to Google location. My fiancé knows all of this, and still wants to try and rebuild a relationship with them. This past week, I've been avoiding her with excuses and white lies. I've been meeting with accountants, lawyers, wedding venue people, and jewelers. I've also been spending all night at my grandfather's grave, drinking with him, and not getting back home until 4 a.m. To me, it feels like my grandfather is still the only person I can vent my deepest secrets and frustrations to. Which is why I've come to you, Reddit. I feel trapped. On one hand, I do not want to live with people I absolutely hate, and on the other hand, I do not want to lose the woman of my dreams. I want a third party's opinion on the matter, with no connection to me whatsoever, as I feel it's the best way to make a good judgment without people close to me influencing my choices. I'm more than willing to answer questions and know how this subreddit works because I myself am a pizza eater, pimple popper, and redditor. Comments that brought additional information. Amazing Cabinet 1T404. I really didn't understand the "she clearly isn't with me for my money" in the opening paragraph, because, yes, OP, she is with you for your money. There are a lot of subtle ways to be with someone for their money without making an outright demand for it. She could be planning to quit her job, pay zero expenses, keep her funds to the side, and have herself and her parents live in your house for free. There are many problems. The ultimatum is a huge one. But further than that, you might not have recourse to make her parents leave once they've established residency in your home. And what about bills? I'm thinking their contribution will be zero. Will they keep the proceeds from selling their house? Quit their jobs? Do you expect to pay all expenses? You'll end up paying for 6 people to live off of you and your money. Do you want to buy their groceries? Pay the utilities. What about spending money? Will your wife be handling the money behind your back to keep it fair? Who pays for their car, medical, retirement, care when they're older? To go on trips? This will absolutely ruin your relationship. It does not take a psychic to see this. They dislike you. They don't respect you. Do you think they'll respect your home? Your money? This path is fraught with challenges. Seek financial advice. Also, why didn't one of your parents get money? Did they also abandon your grandfather? Do you want to care for them for the rest of your life? I'd reassess that as well. Maybe set up a trust with stipulations so they can live independently. It's your money. Do with it in regards to your parents what you will. But you do not owe her parents a free ride. I don't think you owe your parents one either. FWW. OP's reply. First off, thank you for your reply. Much like 99% of the other comments, it really gave me a sense of direction. I'd like to address a few things as to my thought process after reading your comment, because I did think about what ifs at least for my parents, which would apply to hers if they moved in. News flash. I'll die before I let her parents move in. My parents would keep the proceeds from selling their house, as I have no need for it. Utilities are not an issue. I own the water rights to a natural aquifer or spring thingy underground. As for power, a lot of it is solar energy, which can keep the house going non-stop as long as it's charged. My grandfather was one of those doomsday the government is out to get out crazy old men. I knew about the hunting cabin. I just didn't think it was this big or advanced, so I'll literally never need to pay anything on the property other than tax. I plan to have my parents enter into a rental contract. They'd be able to rent out their area and live on the property, use its land or whatever, for $1 a month. Just in case they piss me off, I can evict them. As for insurance, my dad served 23 years in the military, and my mom, being his wife, gets that insurance as well. Unless they run out of money, they'll be paying for their own insurance. Technically speaking, I'd be buying their groceries. My father and I love to hunt and fish, so a lot of our food will be produced on our own. Mom has always wanted a garden, and she can't grow one in the city. Also, no, they wouldn't go on trips with us. As for the hypothetical, if her parents did move in, I wouldn't be paying for anything, and they'd be paying me the real price to live on the property and extra, because I don't like them. You might think California rent is high. The auditor I hired to see the value of the estate valued rent for a room at an extortion level of money. Thank God Grandpa bought this land when milk cost your left shoelace and a blueberry. My parents got money. It was nowhere near what I got, but they got a fair share. They didn't abandon my grandfather. In fact, they visited as often as they could, given my dad's work schedule and the distance. It was never viable to visit more than once or twice a year. The only reason I was so close was because I went to college in the same state where he lived and stayed because of my fiancé. I've already been working closely with accountants and lawyers. We've all projected me moving in with my parents and living with them for the next 30-40 years of my life, which will not dent my money in any significant way. I've already invested money and put money into accounts to generate interest. I won't be losing money unless I buy mega yachts, jets, helicopters, and supercars. I can't use 3 of those options, and I hate supercars. I'm happy driving my crappy 12-year-old pickup truck because it works. I don't expect her parents to respect me, my money, or my home. I've thought in great detail about how my parents would be independent of my finances, and my parents have never done me wrong, never given up on me, and encouraged me my entire life. The least I can do is make the rest of theirs something they never dreamed would come true. My dad would have had to work until he died to provide for my mom, take care of the debt they acquired to live, and take care of me. I want them to be happy, and I want them to be close. McKitteman. Damn right. I explained that not only do I not want to heal old wounds, if it was up to me, they wouldn't be coming to the wedding. A bad comment to make in the moment, but justified. I hate her parents too. You don't need a white picket fence relationship with in-laws, but ideally you want something that's civil, which doesn't seem possible here. Every birthday, Christmas, Thanksgiving, whatever you people celebrate, If those times always result in conflicts, I personally don't think the relationship is worth it. Too much of a strain. This will be your life. So, it's worth seriously thinking that this may be a deal breaker. I know that she was with you prior to your inheritance. She loved you when you were poor. But wealth can change people. And it seems like your wealth has changed her. The only compromise I could realistically see here is something like, I would rather set my parents up in a different home and give them a nice place. Cover their lives for them. If that means I get to avoid living with your parents. Living with your parents is the last thing I want to do. I wouldn't be shocked if her parents were suddenly all buddies with you. If they switched up like that, you know it was because of the wealth. Don't forget, you're only 26. You have so much life ahead of you. This girl doesn't have to be the one. You could find a relationship that is complete, where you love spending time with the in-laws and a family that loves you in return. It is honestly a big piece to miss out on. I think the woman of your dreams should come along with a great relationship with her family. That's my take. If she threatened you over this, that would be the nail in the coffin for me. F right off with your toxic parent, then. You're just as toxic yourself if you're threatening me over this. As a curious note, how did you end up as the beneficiary of the will? Shouldn't your mom or dad, whoever was blood related, be the beneficiary? I am in support of you embarking on a new chapter of your life without her. OP's reply. My grandfather changed his will towards the end of his life, when he was still coherent enough to make critical choices. It was supposed to be split evenly between my mom, his daughter, and his other kids, their kids. The property was supposed to go to my mom as well, but seeing as I was his primary caretaker, and the only person willing to check on him, I refused any money he attempted to give me for my work. From what he wrote in his final goodbye letter, you were the only person who cared for me like Charlotte, my grandma, cared for me. You showed me what true love and loyalty are. I probably wouldn't have lived this long if it wasn't for you and your stubborn attitude. Which is why I'm giving you my entire life's work. I know this'll piss a few people off, but screw them. They weren't there for me when I needed it most. You were insert my name. Pop loves you, kiddo. Just be sure to bury me under the big oak tree. If you're reading this after I'm buried, move my body. It's where I put your grandmother's ashes, and I want to be with her. I had to retype that word for word from paper. But that's the reason why he changed it, I guess. He had to put in some specific stipulation, and name me by name to skip it going to my parents. And in order to make it valid so nobody could contest, he had to name everyone he thought could contest, and give them money so they couldn't argue he forgot about them. Update. This will be my only update post available for this subreddit. In the 48 hours since I've posted, that thing took off like a rocket ship. I'd like to start off by thanking everyone for their opinions. While a majority of you told me to leave, others offered compromises and logical alternatives and gave me questions I didn't even think to ask myself. I'll put a TLDR at the bottom, but I probably won't need it. I think this has been the longest 48 hours of my life. Reading through comments, responding to them, having meetings in real life, and talking with my fiancé have really given me clarity on what my next choices in life are going to be. 1. I've postponed the wedding. While some of you may refer to it as calling her bluff, I call it waiting and seeing. As of right now, we're really talking about how compatible we truly are, going over our goals in life again, and talking in depth about the relationship we want with our in-laws if we get married. Apparently, a lot has changed since the last time we talked about it before I got money, as some of you called it. 2. Yes, she genuinely thought moving her parents in would make my relationship with them better over time. I've expressed that, as a result of all they've said or done to me, any positive relationship or communication with them will only be done out of necessity. For example, if she was pregnant, in the hospital, or experiencing any life-altering complication or celebration, she did not take this well. But that was expected, and it's important I tell my truth. She believes I'll come around and try to build a relationship with her parents. But as of right now, I can't see myself doing it. 3. My parents won't be moving in, as I haven't even asked them yet. I know some of you were confused or assumed it was already happening. It was not. I asked if it was okay if they could. I was not telling her it was happening. Some of you suggested that maybe moving them in as newlyweds was weird and suggested building them a small house on property. I didn't think about that and will talk to my accountant or parents about it whenever that conversation needs to be talked about. Nice idea, Reddit strangers. 4. What have I been doing? I had a lot of meetings about my future, finances, and setting up trusts and wills. I'll be re-enrolling in school to take classes on business, finances, accounting, and economics, as my accountant suggested I do. We're still working on a budget. But as of right now, my next steps are furthering my education to manage my newfound wealth and opportunity in a healthy way so as not to blow it. As of right now, to be honest, I'm emotionally drained. I think the weight of my grandfather's death is finally hitting me despite it being months later. And the only thing that kept me going was the idea of the wedding day. With that being postponed, I can really only focus on myself, my values, and my emotions. Staying up all night and drinking at a grave site isn't healthy. And I've not only promised myself to cut back on the booze, but also not stay up drinking. I've been thinking about maybe getting into some sort of therapy or grief counseling. But I need to make sure that is in the budget with my accountant, as that's a long-term thing. Maybe they know someone. 5. Couples counseling to those who suggested it. That's a wonderful idea. However, I'm not sure if I can move past her strangely dependent relationship with her parents. Initially, I thought I could. But with the rose-tinted goggles off, I'm starting to see a lot of red flags I'm not too confident a therapist or wedding can solve. We both have issues we need to work through. But right now, I'm not sure if we'll be working through them together. I know a lot of you said to drop the relationship. But I think after 6 years, it's worth giving it a try to save it. Making a choice like that without trying to fix the problem seems silly. But I did expect a lot of those answers to come through. It's just how Reddit is. Just know that I know my worth, I know my values, and I'm not backing down. Maybe we won't work things out, and the relationship will just end. Maybe things will work out, and we can continue. At least for now. 48 hours later, it's too soon to tell. 6. As for the prenup, we haven't signed anything yet. A lot of you were really harping on the nice ring and fancy vacations once a year thing. While the vacation compromise is indeed concerning, the ring issue is something we've been having conflict over for a while. My personal opinion before and now is that rings are overpriced and silly and serve no significant purpose in a relationship. She says that they're an important symbol of love and commitment. The compromise with the prenup in regards to the ring was that I actually bought her a better ring than I already had. Which sounds super predatory in those words, but it makes sense in my mind. She doesn't want a Titanic heart of the ocean style jewelry piece, just something a bit more noticeable. I probably should have elaborated on that in my original post. But hey, we all make mistakes. Which to some sounds like gold digger mentality. But I know the price range of the ring she wants. And it's about the same range my dad spent on my mom's ring. It's something you'd see on a middle-class woman's finger, nothing huge, nothing small, just enough, I guess. I still think they're just silly circles of metal and compressed dirt. There's not much to say. We sat down and talked for a while. I explained my side of things, and she explained hers. She was upset I was postponing the wedding. But once she realized I wasn't going to fold, she agreed under the notion that it was best for our relationship to work on this before marriage. Right now, I'm taking a step back from her to clear the air and give us time to formulate what we want on our own. I've driven the 2 hours to the cabin. Thankfully, the internet people hooked that up yesterday. I've talked to my parents, not about them like moving in, but about the situation as a whole. Leaving them out, I went to the internet before I went to them. While my dad can't just abandon his job, he sends his love and support. My mom is currently making the 18-hour drive, so I wouldn't be alone by myself. I've gotten attempted phone calls from the in-laws within the last 24 hours, but I've watched them ring and gone back to doing my everyday tasks like lawn work, meal prep, reading, and binge watching Netflix. It's strange, but right now I feel happier alone than I do with my fiancé. Maybe it's some sign that it's not meant to be, or that I've finally been able to relax for the first time in years and have found comfort in solitude. Maybe I'm happy my mom is going to cook me my favorite dinner as a child to cheer me up. I think, as of right now, I have a lot of work to do, not only emotionally but also literally. I'm thinking about doing some telework, just to still have a mainstream income part-time, as I'll probably get bored of being jobless in about a week. I need some hobbies. TLDR. The wedding is postponed, I'm going back to school, and I'm probably going to be staying in the cabin until the lease is up on the 30th, regardless of whether I lose my security deposit. I'll just pay my fiancé that deposit. As of right now, she definitely won't be moving into the cabin with me. I honestly want some distance between us until we can figure out how this relationship is going to continue or end. Second story. OP resents his daughter after she shows disgust and feels humiliated for her sick mother, who had an accident revealing a brain tumor and ended up in a wheelchair. OP felt relieved when she went to college, but she is returning now. My daughter is 19, still very young, but old enough to know what she did wrong. 5 years ago, my wife's biological mother began to exhibit very strange behavior. She would say weird things, make impulsive decisions, and act strange, She and my daughter would clash often. Now, my daughter was always a daddy's girl, but she was still close with her mother. I honestly thought my wife was going through a midlife crisis and dealing with the pressures of working while raising a teen, and we had to come to Jesus talk. About 6 months after the start of that behavior, my wife ended up in a really bad accident. When they were performing emergency surgery, they found a ball-sized tumor pressing on her brain, which was the cause of her initial behavior. My wife ended up having to relearn everything, from walking to talking. She was still reeling from the effects of the accident and the brain tumor, and she was mentally and physically disabled for a while. Our daughter refused to be seen in public with my wife. She hated the mess of the wheelchair and her mother's condition. She would also just ignore her mother and speak to me all the time, sometimes even about her. She saw my wife as a burden and would complain to people, to the point where the school called me. At the time, I was just struggling to get by, and I couldn't alienate my daughter. My wife needed a lot of care, and my daughter was in such a difficult stage of her life that I couldn't abandon her. When my daughter went off to college, I was sad, but also somehow relieved. My wife still needs a wheelchair sometimes, and she has difficulty with some things, but she has honestly improved so much. It really solidified our love for each other and our belief in our marriage. My daughter is coming for a summer break after exams. I don't know why, but I feel uncomfortable with her staying for this long. I feel like the sense of closeness I had with her evaporated when she treated her own mother callously. I don't know what to do. My wife is very excited to have our daughter come, but I don't want to see her heartbroken. I've tried getting over it and talking with my therapist, but I just can't feel emotionally close with my daughter, and I'm sure she'll notice. Ada. Edit. I don't know where any of your assumptions about my wife are coming from. Her mother was never abusive in any way, including mentally or emotionally. When I said my wife did or said strange things, she had regressed in some ways to a child, which was exacerbated by the accident. For example, she would go on and on about a show she watched. She couldn't tell a story. She would spit out food if she didn't like it. My daughter would never have been put in an abusive situation. Comments. Dirtwitch 17. I was 14 when my mother had a traumatic brain injury. It was really rough, and she had to relearn how to do the same things your wife did, largely. While I didn't go the route of your daughter, I did feel very odd. As a child, you're used to your mother always being there for you, and seeing your protective and parental figure helpless is traumatic in a way. Therapy seems like a good option individually for her, and then family therapy. Anj Basu. Is family therapy an option? Your daughter was 14 when her mother started acting very weirdly, and then had a massive accident. I bet your daughter was terrified at the time. Give her a chance, and try to see her for who she is now. Fabulous Egg 17603. Honestly, I think the issue here is that your daughter was a young teenager when your wife's behavior essentially alienated her. Yes, the tumor wasn't her fault, but it still caused damage. So when the accident happened, your daughter had already been mentally and emotionally pulled away. Then came the accident, and it sounds like you focused on your wife's care. While it was understandable that she needed help and support, your daughter also needed support from her parents. So your daughter likely blames her mother for ruining her teenage years and taking you away from her. Update. 9 days later. Mother's Day was terrible. I don't know why I'm updating this. Maybe it's for the few people who can sympathize. A lot of the prior comments made untrue, horrible accusations about my wife. My wife was never abusive or even mean, not in any state. It makes it so much harder to understand why our daughter would be so cold to her own mother. My wife's mental state before the accident had regressed into childlike behavior, which is concerning, but not the cause of my daughter's coldness. My wife would spit food out back onto her plate, bluntly say it tasted bad, and then wipe her nose with her sleeve like a child. I made the error of thinking she was having a midlife crisis because she bought an expensive dress because it was soft. She would forget to do her responsibilities. Mother and daughter clashed because she would tell stories with no beginning or end, just rambling. She would ask the same questions over and over. She would promise to pick her up or bring something and forget. Things that would annoy a teenage girl. The tumors were concentrated in the back of the head. When she got into the car accident, it made everything worse. She needed to relearn everything. She is still disabled. We had high expectations for our daughter, but she set them higher for herself. She had a dream school where she wanted to go since she was 12. It meant that I had to chauffeur her to so many activities throughout high school and sacrifice a lot to make sure she got the opportunities she wanted. It meant leaving my disabled wife in a longer-term care facility to hopefully recover. It was COVID, so there were long stretches where we didn't visit her. She was there for too long. I never should have left her there. When she came home, my wife was still largely nonverbal and wheelchair-bound. She needed help with everything, from eating to going to the bathroom. I earned a little as a caregiver on top of my regular job. My daughter was so cruel and cold to her mother at that time. She wasn't a young kid or even a young teen anymore. She was never expected to and never did take care of her mother, so it wasn't caregiver burnout. She would hate it if her mother came outside with her and would later blame it on the wheelchair, saying it was bulky and attracted attention. She would ignore her mother and move away to distance herself physically. I ended up getting a call from the school because a classmate had overheard what she said about her mother and reported it as ableism. I don't know what she said. All I know is that she was very cruel to her mother. I had her in individual therapy, and we did therapy as father and daughter. It was her choice to stop. My daughter ended up getting into her dream college. They had an accepted student weekend, and she demanded that her mother stay home, even though her parents were invited. By that time, my wife had made leaps and bounds in progress, and was disappointed to stay home. I went and tried to be a proud father. At least she let her mother go to graduation. My daughter came home a few days ago. Her exams were earlier. She informed us that she earned a research position with a professor for the summer. My wife was overjoyed, writing a card all on her own about how proud she was, and she wished she had seen her daughter grow into an accomplished young woman. How proud she was to share this moment. My daughter looked sick with guilt. I know what that looks like. On Mother's Day, I made the comment that she couldn't ignore her mother today. She told me to stop saying that. I made another comment about how proud her mother was of her and how much she loved her. I was doing it on purpose. It ended up with her saying she regretted what she did. I always had my suspicions. I interrogated her until she tearfully admitted she hated what her mother had turned into. She hit her mother once, and she was ashamed to be around her because of what people thought. We got into a shouting match, and she yelled at me that I was so focused on everyone else's behavior because I regretted my own. It's true in a lot of ways. Because of COVID, there were limited visiting hours, but I still didn't visit as much as I should have. I left my wife in a facility to focus on our daughter, but also so that it would be easier for me. There are no siblings or grandparents to help. I didn't visit as much because I hated how much my wife would sob when I had to leave. I started feeling guiltier when I read a news article about a nurse being sentenced for assaulting a woman in a coma. I thought about my wife. She was nonverbal, had limited short-term memory, and was wheelchair-bound. I wouldn't know what would happen. I tried to convince myself that it was fine, but all I did was find more and more news articles about abuse at care facilities. I would have nightmares. I pulled my wife out. It took months of work. I finally got her home. She was taken care of, but not like I would have. There were a few knots in her hair, bruises, and sores. I won't lie, the care was brutal. Now I had to juggle taking care of my wife and making sure my daughter was supported and able to reach her dreams. And it was hard to see my wife like that. She was accomplished and intelligent, and now couldn't do a puzzle, eat on her own, or go to the bathroom by herself. There was a huge learning curve, and they assigned a nurse to come see my wife every few days. My wife is so sweet. I attend a caregiver support group, and I feel guilty because my wife doesn't have the fits of temper, the rage, or the depression that others did. I felt guilty for being tired. Some had it a lot harder than I did. She got better, and over time, it was like she was almost back to her old self. And she never lost love for either of us. It hurts that she blames herself for how our daughter treated her. Maybe I shouldn't have let my daughter focus on prestige and appearance so much. Maybe I should have realized the signs early on and exposed her to others. My daughter and I aren't speaking. My wife just wanted a happy family. I'm looking for therapy for us as a family. Comments. Genesis Staples. Oh, this is so heavy. I have no idea what to say. I commend you for your strength. Being the primary caregiver to a teen and disabled woman must have been soul-crushing. No matter what, I wish you all nothing but the best. Processor Proton. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the choices our kids make and the people they become hurt us very, very deeply. There are times, and my wife and I had to deal with this, where just permanently separating from our offspring is the only thing we can do that will allow us to have a happy, peaceful life, to regain some level of happiness. I hope that, however your situation turns out, you and your wife do find that happiness again and live happily ever after. OP. I can't give up yet. I just have to have hope that she has changed for the better and that we can rebuild somehow. My wife would be devastated to be estranged from her baby. Entertainer enough 812. She opened the door to you, admitting how she really felt and why. And it's understandable that what came out of her disclosures led to a big fight. Try to keep that door open. This could be an opportunity for her to get to know you and her mom from an adult's frame of mind. Good luck. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.